Just for a moment, I'd like to ask you to do something impossible. Come with me on a wee imaginary excursion. We're going to a place that we know, the place that we're in right now. But the impossible thing is that we're going to go as different people of nearly 6 centuries ago. 6 centuries ago, most of you have never been to Edinburgh. It would take you at least 3 hours to walk there, and why would you? You've no real need to go. Life takes place in and around this little village of Dalkeith. You live in a little cottage. Perhaps it's made of stone. More likely, it's made of wood and mud and straw. And you might share your home not only with parents and children, but with animals too. A cow or a pig, geese or maybe hens. Your house is dark, smoky, damp. There are strong smells, but you're used to them and you don't really notice them. Towering above your cottages, vastly bigger than anything else in the village, stands one building. It's made of finely cut stone. Its windows have glass in them, while yours are covered with an oiled rag. It is the biggest human-made structure you have ever seen, and over the last 14 years or so, you've watched it being built. Now you can go in. There are carved stones. There are grotesque gargoyles. There are faces of angels. There are statues of saints in the niches on either side of the door of the porch. Inside is light and airy. It's the only building you do not have to stoop to enter. There are pictures. There are colors and patterns on the walls. There are carved wooden choir stalls. This wall here isn't here at the moment. The choir stalls where the priests, in their gold-embroidered, richly colored vestments, sit to recite and sing. There are candles, many of them, not just one. There is the sweet smell of incense. There is a high altar where mysteries are enacted, where holy words are spoken. A table surmounted by images of the God who is worshipped here. How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. '21st century Reformed Christians such as us no longer think that way. We are inheritors of a tradition which was suspicious of and got rid of images and grandeur and mystery. The tradition which was handed on to us prizes rationality and understanding above all else. Medieval Christianity, though, used all the senses. A stoup of holy water would have stood by the door for people to dip their hands into and dab their foreheads, a reminder of their baptism every time they came or went. The rich smell of incense would have filled their nostrils, covering the many other odors of feet or clothes or breath or oxters. Every week, perhaps even every day, the bread of the sacrament would have been tasted. Candles and paintings and vestments and statues would have created a feast for the eyes. Music, some of it the austere sounds of chant, some the rich harmonies of different voices and instruments blending together, would have delighted ears for whom the constant music of today was quite unknown. I cannot help but feel we've lost too much with a religion of one sense only, of hearing alone, practiced in spaces made plain to avoid visual distraction, practiced in services almost devoid of ritual, where touch and taste are restricted to rarely celebrated sacraments. How much more difficult we have made it for us, or indeed anyone else, to say, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this the gate of heaven. We have made the awesome ordinary. These words we've heard are the words of Jacob, a man on the run, a man afraid his past would catch up upon him, a man with a past which, as we know, included a very angry brother and a hurt and deceived father. Jacob was a man who had done nothing to earn people's trust. But a story is told about him. How much of it is true? A man who wakes from sleep and says that God has given him all this land around him in a dream is probably not a man to be trusted. But a man who wakes from sleep changed by the dream he has had maybe deserves more consideration. Because what is said about Jacob is that what he says first is, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Profoundly, mystically, Jacob realized that the Lord was in the place where he had slept, with that stone pillow beneath his head. And that was a realization which changed him, sending him on a path from being Jacob to being Israel, sending him on the way towards redemption through eventual reconciliation with his brother, though that would be many years in the coming. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not realize it. To me, these are very powerful and very challenging words. They challenge us to look at our own lives and at our own places. Where, if anywhere, are we powerfully aware of the presence of God? The shocking, painful answer may, for many of us, be nowhere. Nowhere are we aware of the powerful presence of God. And if this is true, it will be because, like the younger Jacob, we have banished God from our consciousness. We've not looked or listened or felt for God in our lives. We have even, I fear, banished God from our services and our places of worship. with our relentless efforts to fill these times with our words, words upon words upon words upon words. About 4,000 of them all in the course of a normal Sunday service. We crowd the time and the space as if we were afraid of what God might do or say if we were simply quiet. And we've turned away from the possibility of God breaking through in mystery, in ritual, in the delighting of our senses, because we have inherited a tradition which, if it cannot be explained, if it cannot be understood, it has no place. But who are we to explain? Who are we always to demand the right to understand? We are so limited in our capacities, and we're so afraid of the limitlessness of God. No one can truly claim that the church is in a good state in Scotland or indeed in many other countries. And the frightening truth is, I believe, that the church is not in a good state because it's not doing the right things, and it hasn't been for ages. God's not punishing us. I don't believe that that's how God works, as some though claim. Rather, we're failing to reveal God to the world. Specifically, I fear that the church and its practices are actually standing in the way of people encountering and experiencing God. I point to things like our internal bickering, especially about things like sexuality and the full inclusion of women in the life of the church. I'd point to things like the horrendous distortions and complacencies which have led to children being abused and to the exclusion of minorities from our church structures. And I'd also point to rigidly holding on to the practices and styles of worship and church organization which are less and less relevant. We've fallen into a way of worshipping which rests on one or two or maybe three people as the providers, and everyone else more in the role of observers, limited to participating actively only in hymns and only in well-liked, well-known hymns. And I don't think this can go on. I don't think we can keep our heads in the sand and imagine that because this is how it has been, this is how it always should be. It suits us. There's no denying it. We come because we like it this way, among other reasons. But it's not reaching others. And if it upsets and unsettles you to hear this being said, be absolutely sure that it upsets and unsettles me to be saying it. 2017 is the 500th anniversary of Martin Luther starting the reformation of the church. Is 2017 also the year when we realize a new reformation is necessary? When we set in motion the changes that, by God's grace, may lead us to say, like Jacob, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." When we are once again able to say, like Jacob, "How awesome is this place?" When we actually work not to recreate medieval worship, still less to maintain 19th century worship like we currently do, even less to mimic contemporary pop culture, but to develop an authentically, meaningfully reverent 21st century spirituality, which makes plain the truth that this is a Bethel, a house of God, and lets the world, or at least Dalkeith, see that this is none other than the gate of heaven. Amen.